Hi, I'm Captain Larry Bell with Texas Fishing Tips, and this is your weekly fishing report.
All again, these back lathe drains, the mouth of all these things, all the way down through here, Cottonwood Bayou, all the way up to Ayers Point. All these areas here, work all these little drains that are all up and down this area here. There's some nice trout that are working in here. Most productive bait that's been used in here has been the supermodel of the down south lure Magic Grass. Has worked extremely well for these particular locations. When the high pressure is in place, the Miradynes, the smaller version, has done well. The XL has done pretty good there, working the deeper guts that are in this area. Look for your bait fish that are working in some of those areas. Be patient with it. They're not going to be as active as what you would be during the summertime. So just take your time, work each one. Some of these drains may hold some fish, some of them may not. Once you find the ones that are holding fish, just sit there and just keep working them and keep working them and keep working them, and you will find your quality trout that are hanging in these drains. Up here in Mustang Lake, this little area all up in here, find your area where the mud's at and start working. Find you some bait working over the top of that mud. Throw your Corky sinker, has done well over the shale area. Your Corky floater has done well in a little bit shallower water. You can work it like a topwater bait and let that thing float and then sit there and just sink down and just wait for that thump to happen. Again, it's pretty critical to find your bait working in here. That's the only time that the fish have been in this area here with the water temps continuing to be in the 50s consistently. You want to be over that muddy area. That's going to hold the heat for these fish. That's where they're going to want to hang, close to the ICW as well early in the morning. There's some spots that are up and down there just outside of Mustang that you can, it's all wadeable. It's soft mud, but you can wade it. And you can find some nice trout that are hanging up there that are looking for something to eat. These fish may not eat quite as much right now when the water temps are cooler, so they may be looking for one nice meal to hold them over until their next feeding period. So just remember that when you're throwing that larger profile Corky or the Miradyne XL and your down south, the supermodels, just take that into effect whenever you're looking for these fish up and down these shorelines. Down here next to Cedar Bayou, this whole back shoreline back here. Again, pay attention to what your water levels are. When you're going back in here, you get shallow on you real quick. There's a lot of good shale that's back in here. There's one of the little back lake drains that's there that's held some flounder. The Little Johns. Have you worked that Little John across the bottom of those guts in there and you've pulled out some flounder, and there's been some nice ones. There's some nice trout that are hanging on this back shoreline as well, and maybe just a little bit deeper water, just depending on what your water levels are. Again, your water temperature is important. You start your day out with the low 50s, work your little bit deeper water as the day progresses and it starts to warm up a little bit, then you can start moving to those a little bit shallower water. The key ingredient there, besides the temperature, is going to be bait working in your area. Again, this whole back shoreline here. The theme that's going to continue on throughout the whole winter time is Corkies, Miradynes, darker down souths, sometimes your smaller profile baits like your burner shads, marker 54 jerk shrimps. When these high pressures are in place, a little bit smaller profile bait will be the ticket, is what you want to do. But again, just be patient. Again, these fish, they're going to eat when they want to eat, so you really got to be patient when you work these areas, because you can, if you do that, you can really find some quality fish hanging in certain areas. Down here in Spalding, again, the back lakes. Back lakes. Throwing your Corkies in these mouth drains, throwing your down south lures in these back lakes, in the mouth drains. Working all those areas there, all the way back up and down, all the way up into the Carlos area. Take your time working these areas. The water has dropped out. The water's not nearly as high as it has been, so you're going to have to push away from the shoreline to be able to work that. When you're wading all those areas, you'll find the guts with your feet. Work those guts really well. There's been some bait fish that's been working in those, and there's been some nice box fish, both reds and trout, hanging in those mouth drains, just waiting for fish to come through there, waiting for the water to warm up so they can move out where it's a little bit shallower water, and they can got more area that they can roam around and find something else to eat. But in the meantime, look for those guts. Look for those guts and fish those guts. That's where your fish are going to be hanging early in the mornings until that water does warm up. Again, your Corkies, your Miradynes, double Ds have not been too bad in this area as well. Topwater bait's been okay. If you work it right down the edge, it's been okay. The burner shad have worked pretty good as well in this area. So just, again, be patient with them. Take your time. Be real methodical when you work these areas so you can find your fish. Again, with the water level dropping out, water temperature is a little cooler. If you got a trolling motor on your boat and you don't want to wade in some of these particular areas because it's super soft, get on the ICW. Deeper water. Take your time working down this. It's protected from whatever wind that you got, and you can work the whole thing all the way down that shoreline until you find where your fish are hanging out. Your down scan imaging will help you with that kind of stuff. Usually that kind of stuff's over there for the jetties and all that, but when you're over here on the ICW like that, working on these little areas like this, you can find some fish hanging off the edge like that. Power pole down, or use, if you got one of the real nice iPilot style trolling motors, and you can put a spot lock on it, and you can sit there and you can work it. Put your popping cork and a marker 54 popping shrimp underneath there, and put that thing on the edge and start working that. Some of these fish are coming off these big old mud flats just right there off to the edge over there in Dunham, and you can find some real quality redfish that are coming off those flats as well. And there's been some really good trout that are hanging over that shell, that little bit deeper water early in the morning when it's cooler, and as it warms up, then you can find some fish hanging out on that flat right there.
For watching, I'm Captain Larry Bell.